Hello and welcome to this session. My name is Jan Wienand and I'm a presets consultant for the topic of application security, so especially Fortify in the region of Germany, Switzerland and Austria. And in today's session I want to talk a little bit more about the Software Security Center API. So let's start with a short overview or the goal of today's session. So first of all I want to give you a short overview about how you can get into the API. So how do you find the API and how do you work with that? And after that I want to give you some use cases where you can see how the API works and how you can use it. That's very interesting. And the last step or the last thing that I want to give you is some tips and tricks for using the SSC API. And with that, let's start with a short introduction of the SSC API in all. So the SSC API is a central place where you can exchange data. So that means you can request some data or post some data inside of the SSC API, and it will communicate with the SSC itself. So it is the central point that you need to have to talk to the SSC with some other components, so you can integrate that very easily into other things. And the good thing here is that we have a Swagger documentation that you can use to have a look at what you can do with the SSC API and just try things out. But with that, just let's go into the SSC, where I can show you how you can go into the API and how you can work with it. So first of all, I will just quickly log into my SSC. And when I want to access the API, or especially the Swagger interface, I need to go to the question mark on the right, click on API documentation, and there we can see some documentation on the SSC API. So we can see some things about authentication or how we do file uploads and downloads or requests in general. So that is very helpful, but when we want to go into the API Swagger interface, we need to click onto the API reference here. And after that, we get into our Swagger interface. So you can see all the different things that you can do with the API here, really everything. And you can also try things out here, but I will go through that in the use cases. So let's switch back to the presentation shortly and let's talk about the use cases. So first of all, I want to show you 3 different use cases. The first one is very easy and very common, because this is the creation of a token. So this is very useful when you want to integrate the token into your pipeline. So every time you're speaking with the API, you need a token or the basic authentication. And in this case, we want to create a token that we can use in our later use cases. So the second use case is actually the upload of results. So this is very helpful because with this you're able to integrate that very easily into your CI/CD pipelines or whatever program you want to use. And the last and more advanced use case is creating a new version for an application and copy the current state with that. So with that, I mean, you can create a new version and it will automatically copy every data that is in the current version that you want to copy. And I will go into more detail a little bit later. But let's switch into these different use cases. So first of all, I decided to write an application in Java. So we're currently in IntelliJ here, and I prepared the 3 different use cases. So in this case, we will start with use case number 1, and that is generating a token. And with that, let's have a look at the method itself. So you can see we need, first of all, we need a token type that we need to provide, because of course, we need to say, okay, which kind of token do we want to use, or which kind of token do we want to create? So this is an input parameter that we need to provide here. And after that, we can have a look into the method itself. So first of all, it will create some dates that we use for the description. So not so interesting. After that, we create a body, because we need to provide some data. And in this case, as I said, we add a description with the formatted date that we get in here, and also the type that we already defined in our input. So, and after that, we are doing the API request. But let's switch back to the Swagger interface, because I will show you how this looks like here. So when we just click Control F and search for token, we can see that we have an token controller here, and that is very interesting because you can see we can get a list of all tokens, or do a post request to create a new token or delete tokens. That is very easily. And in this case, we want to create a token, of course. And you can see here are some example values. But when we click at the model, you can also see that the only required thing here is the type. So in this case, we can do just create a token with just providing the type. And the cool thing about Swagger is that we can directly try it out here. So just click on try it out, and we only need the type. Just click on execute, and after that we will get our response with the token. And that's the same thing that we do in our program here. So we will do a post request to the tokens, and we will use the basic authentication because we have no token for that. We want to create that. So I'm using my username and password that is stored in the auth class, and after that I provide our body, so the thing that we need to provide here, and we want to store it as JSON. This is because I'm using UniRest in Java. That is very easy to use. I can completely recommend using UniRest for Java, but you can also use complete another program languages as long you can do API requests. And after that, we will get back the token and store it into the variable token and just print that out. So let's try it here. So first of all, we need to set a URL. That is because we want to set our string SSC URL here. So this is just because of my application here. And after that, we want to create a test token, and the token type is unified login token. So let's start this program and have a look at the results. So this is already finished. So we can see here that I printed out our token that we created, and we can use it. So that's very easy, very common example. And in this case, it's completely done by using the API. So let's go into the second use case, that is uploading results into the SSC. So that could be very helpful when you want to upload results files into your SSC by using the API and not using any kind of other program. So in this case, we need to provide a project version. So where do we want to upload the results in, and where is the file stored? So we need to provide the file path. And let's have a look at the method here. So in this case, it will do a post request using our token in this case, and also using our file that we will provide using the input parameters here. And after that, it will just print out the artifact ID, because after you upload the results into the SSC, it will provide you an artifact ID where you can work with that later. And after that, I created a smart do while loop where it will have a look at the current status of the upload process, because sometimes you need to approve the results, because you can have a look at, let's switch into our applications, into Juice Shop version 1. So there are no artifacts in here, no results. And as I said, sometimes we have or we need to approve the upload of the results. And this could be because we have some processing rules in place here, and I want to avoid that by using this do while loop that will just check the current status. If it's scheduled processing or processing, it will just wait until that change, because after that we get an require authentication or everything is successful. And in the case of that we need to approve it, so require authentication, we can do that by another post request. So in this case, let's have a look at the SSC. So as I already shown, we have our Juice Shop here in the version 1, which have no artifacts here, and we will upload it using the API. So let's just uncomment that. So we will do an upload result. The project version is 85. So you can see the project version, you can find it here in the URL when you are in the right application and in the right version. And the next thing that we need to provide is our file path. So in this case, I stored an FPR file on my system, the Juice Shop FPR, from a scan that I already finished, and I want to upload that. So let's start that method and have a look at the logs there. So you can see the upload is finished. We get back the artifact ID, and the processing is scheduled. So we wait until the status changed, and it changed to require authentication. So we need to approve it, and it will automatically approve it. And after that, we can have a look at the application. And now our results are here. And when we have a look at the audit page, there are all our results from our FPR file. So that works also very well and very easy. And after that, we can go into the more advanced use case. So let's have a look at use case number 3, and that is creating a new version of an existing application. That could be very useful when you want to create a new version and you want to copy the whole results, the users who have access to this version, to a new version. So that's the same if I just click here on new version and just enter version 2 and click using existing application and click on application stage. So make sure that the results are stored in there. And now we can just browse for the current version, and after that we can paste in some attributes and templates and who have access to the application. So this is the normal UI process, but we will do that with our API. And this is a little bit more complicated, or there are some more steps included, because we need to copy everything, like the attributes, the users who have access, and also the results. This includes several steps, and there are in total 7 steps that we need to do, but I will not go into detail in here, so you can have a look at it later. So I will provide a link where you can have a look at the source code, but it will do all the steps to create a new version and copy everything there. So let's just have a look at how this looks like in our test system here. So in this case, I want to create a new version of our OWASP Juice Shop. So currently we only have this version 1, and this is 85. So the current version ID is 85, and we want to create a new one. So just run the program and see what happens here. So let's have a look at the log here, and now we can see what kind of different steps are in this method. So first of all, it will create a token that we will use for the next steps here. And the first step is to actually creating a new version, just create a new version without any data inside of it. And then it will start all the different copying processes. So copying, first of all the attributes. So these are the things that you can see here. So these are attributes, development phase, application type, and so on. And in the next stage, it will copying all users and responsibilities. So that is part of, just go to this. So this is part of the access page. So you can see who have access to the application and who not. And after that, it will complete the whole copying process by copying everything else. And then it will commit the new version, because when you create a new version, it will show up in the SSC, but you're not able to click on it because you need to commit it. And after that, the last step is actually the copying of the results there. So with that, let's have a look at the applications there. So when we go back, we can see that we have now a new version. So that was created by using our application here. So you can see I integrate just the current date, current time in there. And from that, you can see, okay, everything is fine. So we copy, or the program copied everything in here. So the scan results, also the auditing, and also when we have a look at the users, we can see all the users are there. So that are the users from version 1, and this was completely successful. So these are the 3 main use cases that I want to show you. As I said, you can have a look at the source code in detail. But let's switch back to the presentation, because I have some tips for you where you can maybe have a look at it by using the SSC API. So the first one, I already shown it to you, is using the Swagger interface. So the Swagger interface is very useful or very helpful when it comes to try things out. So I would recommend to do things first in the Swagger interface, and after that you can start to implement that into your own system or your own environment. So with that, you're making sure that everything is working, and you only need to take care of the syntax of your language or program that you want to use. The next thing is playing around with the Sandbox. So our professional services provides a Sandbox that you can use to have a look at different use cases. So you only need to search for the SSC Sandbox, and you will directly get to the SSC JavaScript Sandbox from our professional services. And when we click on documentation and setup, you can see there are some different use cases that you can use, like the create version that I showed to you. But I think this is without copying everything there, but downloading FPR files or generating a token, that are common examples that are shown in here. So I can definitely recommend to have a look at our Sandbox here. And the last tip that I want to give you is using your developer tools in your browser, because everything that happens in the background by using the SSC is just simply the call from the SSC API. So everything that you do on your SSC, you can have a look at that in what happens in the background. So let's switch back to the SSC here. So for example, when I want to create a token, you saw that we did that by using the Swagger interface, but when you have no clue how this is be done by using the Swagger interface, you can have a look at the user interface. Just click on token management and open up your developer things here in the browser. Just click on the network traffic, and when we just click on new and create a new, let's say, unified login token, and description is just test, click on save, you can see here that if we pause that there is a post method, and when we click on that, you can see that we did a post request on the /tokens. And you can also have a look at the request, so which kind of JSON data is inside of the request, and that is exactly the same that we did with our application. And this is very helpful if you want to understand how the background processes of SSC works, and you can use that for your own and have a look at it. And with that, I think we're finished. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope to see you soon. And with that, thank you very much and have a nice day. Bye.